Okay, so good afternoon again to all IEM and UEM family members. And today alongside me, you can see Dr. Bhaskar Arora, who is from the Department of Management from the University of Engineering and Management, UEM Jaipur. And as you can see, his topic is financial inclusion. Okay, so it's an interesting topic, but then again, we have got a foreign talk today, again at 4:30 p.m. So we will have to close it by 4:25. I've requested the organizers that from next week to kindly start the foreign talk maybe from 4:45. So that most probably will be done. But till today, I will request Dr. Bhaskar to kindly cooperate and try to complete it by 4:25. If not, we can continue on some other day. You may kindly take it over from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Visi sir. Thanks a lot. So good evening, everyone. I'm here to discuss on an important topic, financial inclusion. Some of you might be aware of this area. So starting with this, the outline of today's presentation is as follows. We will be discussing about financial inclusion in India, financial exclusion factors, and determinants of financial inclusion. In the words of Raghuram Rajan, financial inclusion will be an important element in ensuring access and equity, necessary building blocks for sustainable growth of a country. So let's start the presentation with an interesting video to get an overview about the financial inclusion. I request sir kindly play the video.
Yes, I will do that.
Money. It connects complete strangers. Through money, we build and we break. Money helps us fulfill our wishes. Some of us have a lot of money. Some of us have less. But money is a universal need for both individuals and businesses. Our interaction with money has transformed over the years. We build financial institutions that help us manage it. We can save it in a bank. We can take loans to invest in a business or to buy things we like. Technology has made money simpler for us. Money is now digital, and our lives have never been so convenient. But is it the same for everyone? For millions of people across the world, money is not simple at all. There are people we see every day, in our homes, our cities, and our villages, in a low-paid job for an industry often called the lifeline of our economy, living in a foreign land, sending remittances back home, the farmers who grow the food we eat, the fishermen who spend months away from home, and the millions of small businesses that we call the engine of our economic growth. Their interaction with money is very limited for many reasons. Irregular income, social status, limited education, distance, and many other factors all restrict their ability to save, borrow, and spend money with convenience. They cannot save for their children's future, invest in businesses, and step up the economic ladder. This basic necessity is even more crucial for people who are vulnerable to shocks, such as natural disasters, medical emergencies, and economic crises. Access to financial services would help to solve some of the world's most persistent problems, such as poverty and inequality. Around 1.7 billion people in this world do not have access to financial services. In Bangladesh, half of all working-age adults remain unbanked. More than 50% of them are women. Financial inclusion means that individuals and businesses have access to useful, affordable financial products and services that meet their needs. Transactions, payments, savings, credit, and insurance, delivered in a responsible and sustainable way. And in order to build an equitable world, we must focus our efforts to reach those who are left out. We must.
Okay, so I'll just change the presenter once more. kindly share your screen again, Dr. Bhaskar. Yes. Okay. You can continue.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. So the idea which we get is that bringing weaker and vulnerable section of the society in the ambit of formal financial system is what we require, because inclusive financial system, one which maximizes usage and access while minimizing involuntary financial exclusion. As a movement of funds is the most important aspect of growth for any individual, business, or economy. To make it possible, bank plays a crucial role as mediator between individuals in the financial system. Now, when it comes to India, Indian government has taken some steps for linking people with formal financial sector. In 1969, nationalization of major commercial banks to take control in government hands to augment trust in formal financial system. Moving to 1976, establishment of regional rural banks to link the poor people with the formal financial system. Further, in 1982, NABARD was established, that is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, for easy access of finance to farmers, to bring them out of the the vicious circle of debt from zamindars. So there were several committees were formed focusing on financial inclusion, such as Khan Committee, Rangarajan Committee, more. Several initiatives were taken to increase the financial inclusion level in India, promoting self-help groups, that is very common SSGs, appointing business correspondents, Kisan credit cards. Now specifying to Rajasthan, many of us have heard about the Bhamasha card, that is was introduced to ameliorate the financial inclusion level. We all have heard about Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana that took place, that was initiated in the year of 2014. So now the question arises, what is the need of financial inclusive society? When low income workers or poor families gain access to basic financial services, they gain a foothold on the first rung of the ladder toward prosperity. They get the access of housing, education, healthcare. Financial inclusion helps the economy to reduce poverty. It helps to ameliorate, augment the gender equality, and help us to reduce income disparity in an economy. Now, after all these efforts, still there are the results are not as per the expectation. According to the figure on your screen, shows that billion of adults have an account but pays utility bills in cash. So this shows the dearth of financial services among individuals. If we see another data depicting supply of financial services over the years, shows that supply have not increased much, supporting this. Like this, I would like to share an interesting fact that India holds a Guinness Book of World Record for opening 15 lakh accounts in a day, during that Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana campaign. And in a week, approximately 1 crore 80 lakh 96,130 accounts were opened during that campaign. But although in the year of 2017, World Bank has published a report stating that from them approximately 92 lakh 52,609 accounts were frozen, as approximately 77% of the populations were baffled by the complicated procedures, and they're unable to understand the formal financial system, which cleared the picture that supplying the financial services without making people aware about the benefit of the financial product will not give concrete results. The figure demonstrating on your screen shows that access and uses of financial services from 2014 to 2017. Now this also says that unstable growth was up there in demand side perspectives. If you closely observe this, there's not much increase when it comes to utilization of financial resources. You can see there is an increase in the mobile payments because recently government has promoted through Paytms and payment banks, but still the remittance facility has been decreased. The saving the money saved in the account has also decreased over the years. So this is not a good condition and not a stable good condition for the economy. Now another question arises. Now, what is the reason people are financially excluded from the formal financial system? Now, World Bank has highlighted two types of exclusion: voluntary and involuntary. So when it comes to voluntary, there is a self-resistance that some people want. They don't need an account in the formal financial system. Other is that they don't trust the formal financial system. This is one of the major reasons why they don't want an account in formal financial system. Now, when it comes to involuntary, the major reasons were found out that there is a low income generation in the low income generation, and people face discrimination also. So by supporting to support this thing, there are some researchers have researched and found out that due to uncertainty of returns, banks are less willing to provide finance and financial services in weaker section of the society. This leads to imbalanced disbursement of resources. Moreover, low income generation which restrict the scope of saving in banks, and individuals start saving when they are able to meet all the basic necessities. So these are some self-reported barriers which data showed. Things showed that people don't have don't have enough money. That's why they are not they don't want to have an account in formal financial bank. They do not need an account. Family member already had an account. No, this is a very basic thing when I did the research, that most of the families, if the head of the family is having an account, the other people are not interested to have an account because they don't know the benefit of that. So some of people have reported that accounts are very expensive to have. Financial institutions are too far. That highlights the accessibility aspect, which we have seen in the video also. Lack of necessary documentation. Poor people lacks collateral securities, collateral documents, so it makes it difficult for them to have an account in the formal financial system. Cannot get an account, lack of trust, and religious reasons. These are some of the factors which highlighted in the research. So now the pictures move further, and we see that how we can measure the the financial inclusion level. So first, if we focus on accessibility, now what is accessibility? I just tell you in a nutshell that banks are available, but they're really far from the an individual's or beneficiary's house. So it is very difficult for them to get access of that, because suppose the bank is of like 10 kilometers away from an individual's house, so it takes him half a day to for just one visit, and it increase the transportation, it add on the transportation cost also. So this is how you can say that these are the lack of accessibility in some of the remote areas. For that, regional rural banks were established, but still, the purpose is still not met properly. Now, the second point comes is, now products are accessible, but they are not affordable. Now, Rangarajan Committee has highlighted that financial inclusion as a process of ensuring access to financial services and timely and adequate credit were needed by vulnerable groups such as weaker sections and low-income groups at an affordable cost. The major reason of dependence on informal financial sector is affordability, low collateral requirement, which is creating the hurdle in the path of financial inclusion over the years. Now the product is accessible, and it is also affordable. But if the consumer, the beneficiary is not aware, not financially literate, then there is no use of all these efforts, because ultimately if the consumer is not utilizing it, then there is of no use. So financial awareness motivates individuals to save and manage financial resources, and bank outlet is pointless until the people are getting benefited through it. Adding to that, awareness plays a very crucial part when it comes to consumption of financial services. But if there is no positive attitude towards the financial services, still it restricts an individual to ultimately use that product. So a positive attitude helps that a consumer finds that the product which he is going to consume, or the goods and services he is going to consume, has some favorable outcomes. So this also motivates an individual to utilize the financial resources. Now, moving on, ultimately, the usage part is there. So a lot of researchers have said that mere holding an account is not useful. until unless there is no utilization of those resources or those facilities. So to measure that, so the indicator is that one of the formal financial services are being utilized by the individuals, like for example payments or storage, and after that, you can promote giving them credit, because a lot of previous researchers have shown that we are giving a lot of credit to the easy money to the economy, and that is not as good, because first an individual should know how to manage the account, then only giving credit to that individual will be fruitful. On that note, that is the thing which I just wanted to discuss today. I request sir to just post the poll. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe.
Yes, I will do that. I will just shoot the poll. I will request all members to very quickly answer. So the poll is shooted. I will request all members to kindly vote. So voting has started also, and we have reached 10%, 13%, 16%. It's going fast today. It's good. 30% crossed. I will wait for 50%. Okay, so we have reached around 40. Yes, 40% we have reached. You can wait till 50%. Okay, we have reached 44% votes. Can you people kindly vote fast so that we can continue with it? We have got the foreign lecture today at 4:30. Let's keep some time for the question answer session also. So I don't think again we'll reach 50%. We have reached 47% votes, and it's time to close. I will now share the results. So I think you can see the results. 22% strongly agrees, 46% agrees, 20% is neutral, 9% disagrees, and 2% strongly disagrees. So there are still 2% people in this population who says that they do not absolutely feel safe doing internet banking, and 46% people says that they feel safe. 22% says they feel strongly safe, no problems. So that is the thing. Your take on this, Dr. Bhaskar?
So that's what I would just want to highlight, that we all are financially literate, but still we don't have that trust on the formal financial. At these 2%, these are the educated audiences which we are right now dealing. But imagine the rural population, those who are not that much literate, what kind of lack of trust they are having in the formal financial system. And that's what we have to work on that day, and on the process, and how we can ameliorate that trust.
So basically you mean to say that in a population where there are professors, the most educated people in the society, in that this figure 2% exists, but had it been a population within the villages, rural people and all those, then they strongly disagree would have increased by a huge margin. That's what you mean to say.
Yes, and the second point is that if we have financially literate and we are financially aware and the attitude, we started trusting the formal financial system. That also the data can also be read like that also. Like when people are financially literate and they're educated, and they start trusting the formal financial system. So this is also a way or a path which we can achieve we can increase the utilization of formal financial system, the financial services in an economy.
Okay, so I will just check the questions very quickly. It seems there are two questions at the moment. The first question I've assigned to you, whether you can see it, I don't know, but still I will read it out. Despite several initiatives by many economists in the last few decades, as mentioned in your presentation as well, sir, financial inclusion still seems to be a utopian idea. The rich gets richer and the poor poorer. What are the major limitations of achieving financial inclusion in the current socio-economic domain, apart from corruption and nepotism? Okay, that's a negative sort of question you have put forward. I'm not sure whether Okay, you can take over, Dr. Bhaskar.
I know that this is the scenario which I've the determinants which I have posted and which I have discussed in the presentation. The recent researches and also working on the model, which shows that the economists and the policymakers are first focusing on the accessibility and the easy money, which I discussed in the presentation also, that they're providing easy credit. But a person, if not financially literate, then it is very hard for them to manage the financial resources and the credit which they have gained. So the path which we are focusing is still not the right. As Raghuram Rajan sir has also stated in one of the interviews, that we should first help the people to educate them and to help them to manage the account first, and then we introduce them the credit. So we are just right now we are focusing on the excess of credit. Basically all the researches are just that we have to give access give the credit facilities to the vulnerable society, but until and unless it is not fruitful if they are not educated. So the path should need some corrections here and there. Yes.
Professor Arun Kumar Chatterjee, when you are stating the reasons, Arun Kumar Chatterjee had written the reasons are very interesting. Anyway, Professor Shobhik Mitra has got another question. How can we enlighten the idea to a large population regarding the advantages of using digital payments, where there is huge digital payment scams every now and then, though not directly related to financial inclusion?
No, they are somehow very related to financial inclusion. If you see recent studies, so government is really promoting mobile banking, internet banking, because it reduces the transaction cost of a bank. Establishing a brick and mortar branches in rural areas is a very costly affair. The operating cost is really high. So government really trying and pushing giving the license to Paytm, and introducing Paytm payment banks is really the initiative which they are taking, so that they reduce the transaction cost. So that's my take on that.
Okay, so Dr. Lata Rani says, sir, it is really a nice presentation. Kindly share the PPT. Also, kindly throw a light on financial inclusion with reference to technology and innovation. What is the most important factor that affects the growth of financial inclusion?
So there is no direct answer to that. See, there are a lot of factors which affects which we have discussed in the presentation also, that some are voluntary, some are involuntary, and there are when it comes to take on technology. Yes, I'm really optimist when it comes to technology, because ultimately the world is changing and we need to upgrade ourselves, and we have to understand that using the internet banking and mobile banking is the next thing. So that is my answer. That is a take.
Okay. So Dr. Rahul Sharma says financial inclusion should not be limited to opening up of accounts. The flow of funds transactions should be there. Demonetization has proven to be effective in terms of making people financially literate. Financially literate, yes, literate.
Yes. So yes, this is the statement. Yes, I guess what's a I just
Yes, that's not. Yes, he has written this as a question, as a statement, not I feel as a question. So I have not found any other written questions in the question panel, but there might be some hands raised if somebody wants to ask directly. I'll very quickly check that. Okay, so I find Swagata Banerjee. Swagata Banerjee, are you there? I have unmuted you. If you would like to throw your question, you can do that. If the hand raise is not a mistake. Again, I can see quite a number of people who are not connected to the audio. Like about 10, 15 people I can see. Okay, Shugato Mollik. Okay, again, he is not connected to the audio. Shugato Mollik, Professor Shugato Mollik, he is not connected to the audio. He has raised his hand. So raising the hand is by a mistake, I believe. I'm still finding Professor Niranjan Mondol. Your hand is raised. I have unmuted you. If you want to ask any question, you can go ahead. So I don't think there is any other hand raised. No. So we can close it over here, Dr. Bhaskar. Thank you for keeping it in time. We are already it's 4:25. So thanks to all members and thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, sir.